Thank you. So I was asked to give the trainees' perspective and, sorry, trying to move on. So this presentation, the sources for this, I've looked at the survey results and the free text that was given in the survey, and also invited the trainees via the trainee representatives of each of the training networks to contribute to this presentation. Something that did come out from speaking with the trainees, a lot of trainees didn't complete the survey out of the fear that it wasn't truly anonymous. Con will go through the statistics further, but these are the kind of rates that we were seeing from the survey from trainees from year 1 to 5. So discrimination 28%, bullying 41%, sexual harassment 13%. And we heard yesterday in the ethics session from the CEO and the college president of the College of Surgeons that our rates are similar to theirs and similarly, anecdotally similar to other colleges reported. But the medical culture norm has changed and continues to need to change. And it's still not ideal when we compare it to what's considered acceptable culture in a modern organisation. So the problems in the survey that come about do range from a perception of discrimination, bullying and sexual harassment down to overt unprofessional behaviour. And along that spectrum, we find all these scenarios that the trainees report where the trainee's in difficulty, where there's a power differential, failing exams, personality clashes, remediation, sick leave or carers leave, secondment terms where they're outside their usual support networks, fatigue and burnout where the service provisions of the network outweigh maybe the teaching opportunities, and then the medical and psychological health. Some of the barriers to reporting from the trainee's perspective included an obvious fear of a negative outcome, so concern with their trainee progression, the confidentiality of the process, and the cultural framework that one needs to just toughen up and finish the training. And also in the process itself, whether their issues should be directed to the hospital or the college, or is it both? Whether the principles of natural justice will be followed, and watching for a consistency of the approach, including disciplinary outcomes. And we know that without a clear process for everyone involved, it does lead to the breakdown of professional and personal relationships and reputations at risk. The college administration helped with a little of this historical data, and so we see there are some significant changes that have happened in the trainee cohorts. So in the 70s and 80s, in 1976, there was 1 female trainee and there was only 24 trainees. This is before New Zealand was part of the college. It was a 3 to 4 year training program. Now in 2016, 5-year training program, 35% of the trainees are female, and a significant increase in trainees in the training program. Surprisingly, the finishing age was exactly the same, so around 35 years. And when we see that sudden rise the increase in females being trained, it is reflected in the number of practising ophthalmologists. And so an area of concern in the culture did relate in the survey to pregnancy and parental leave. There were comments that it was considered a disaster or a crisis, or that being a mother and an ophthalmologist are mutually exclusive, and that it's a waste of time to train females versus we should train more females. Incumbent in that is the fear of discrimination in terms of the changes that need to go into timetabling, rotation changes, on-call changes to fit with that. And the college is supportive in a formal sense. There is maternity leave, obviously. Fees are adjusted pro rata, and there's network-dependent access to non-full-time training and registrar job sharing. And I popped this photo in just the silver lining. Sometimes the stars align. This is the morning of the race exam for me, and it was also my daughter's first day of kindy. And so luckily in Queensland we don't have daylight saving, and I was able to drop her off an hour before the exam. So moving forward, these are the sorts of things the trainees have brought about in conversation and in the survey comments. Training of supervisors and the trainees of their rights and responsibilities to each other. And whilst we often assume these things, sometimes it is better to have something more formal. compassionate support to trainees in difficulty, transparency of feedback and communication between trainees' previous and current supervisors, and that's to address the areas of concern for their learning or where there may have been a borderline pass that needs to be addressed for the next term. Expeditious investigation and feedback about critical events rather than hearing about them at the end of the term, and greater formalisation and continuous feedback over the term, utilising those intentions for the term at the start of the term. The mid-term assessment is now obsolete, but it can be used as a non-formal tool as a means to the end-of-term assessment. And all of this obviously should be combined with the ongoing emphasis that trainees are responsible adult learners with attendant obligations to our self-education. Thank you.